Hello and welcome back to Last and Legacies. My name is Peggy.
My name is Billy.
And we work for the Madison County Public Library System in North Carolina. Today we're going to continue our series on genealogy. And today we're going to be discussing charts and forms. Don't forget, we're going through Ancestry, and to access Ancestry free, you have to have
a library card.
So go get your library card and join us for Ancestry with charts and forms.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, I probably should show you how to get to this part first. So always go back to the home screen, go across to charts and forms, and there you are. So to begin with, there are several charts and forms on here that you can use. The two that Peggy and I use the most are the family group sheet, which is here, and I'll go ahead and download it while we're here. And this is what it looks like. This is also a great place to log in where you find your information. So across the top, I always put your name on it. That way there'll be a record of who did it, and the address and the date. But then you just start filling in the information that you know. And this is a great resource for you to go back to in your records. And so if you come across two dates for the same person, you can kind of narrow it down to which one is the correct one. But you'll do the birth, the christened, married, when they died, where and when they were buried. Also, if there was a will, cause of death, maybe the name of the church, the state, the county, and the city, and then the wife's name and all of her information. You could also put in what their occupation was, whether it be a farmer, a librarian, the sheriff, or whatever. Also, as you scroll on down, it leaves a place for you to put the wife's parents' names, and if they had, other spouses. Okay, and then as you go on down, you can put their children's names and birth dates, and who they were married to, and if they had passed, their information, and whether they're male or female. So this record I use a lot, and I think Peggy does too.
I do too. It just is very simple, and it's quick to find also when you're researching, or when you're out taking a road trip trying to find, your ancestors.
And if you know where they're buried, this is also a good place to put on here. That way, when you go cemetery hopping, you'll have it at your fingertips instead of having to search for a Wi-Fi signal. So we're going to go back, and we're going to go to the other one that we use the most, which is the ancestral chart. And this is where it's also called the pedigree chart. And this is what it looks like. And on here, for this one, you always start with yourself. Or if you're going on back on a line that you just want to trace that one line, you can do it that way. So if I was doing this for me, I would put my name, where I was born, where I lived, or where I was born, who I married, and where we got married, and then somebody else can fill out the died, and where, and all that. And then down here I put my spouse's name. But as I come across to here, I would put my father's name here and his information. And down here I would put my mom's name and her information. And then as I go across, this is where I would put my grandparents, my paternal grandparents. And down here, I put my maternal grandparents. And this is where I'd put my great grandparents.
It's at a glance quicker than the other
Mhm.
one because you're looking at how many generations there, yourself, your parents, your grandparents, and your great grandparents. So 4 generations you're actually looking at on the same page. So it's a quick reference to when you're out in the field looking for information.
Correct. All right, so we're going to go back to Ancestry. The other thing that we're going to be looking at is census forms. We talked about census records during our last session together. And so today we're going to talk about forms and the forms that they used when they were out in the field gathering information. So we're going to go with 1790 because that's when they began.
Right.
All right. So bear with me as I download this form. All right.
May have to try another one, Billy.
Absolutely. Let's try 1940. All right. We're going to stop. We're going to pause just a minute and we will be right back with you. All right. We're back.
Thank you for your patience.
All right. You know how technology is. So, all right. So we're going to continue talking about census
charts and forms.
Yep. All right. So census forms is what we're going to talk about next. And we are going to go with 1790. So we're going to download it. All right. And so in 1790 was the first year that they started doing census records. And so here it would say the state and the date. Then it would have the county, which we live in Madison County, and then the city and the page number, and then names of just the head of the family, like the grandfather or the father. And then it would say free white males of 16 years and upwards, including heads of families. And then it would have free white males under 16, white females, including heads of families, and then all other free persons. And then the last one, what does that say? Slaves. There you go.
Remember that usually the head of the household was the only name that they gave. The children, the wife, the slaves, none of them had names. They only listed by their age. That's what that the other people were listed by. So keep that in mind for the 1790 census and some of the other ones also.
Especially going into the 1800s, like 1880 especially.
Yes.
So, but you can get some information from these as well.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go back to Ancestry. And we're going to show you a form for 1940 census. We'll show you how it changed. So
a lot different.
So with this, across the top, it has the state, the county, the township, the block or the ward, institution. Now, y'all so have to remember that they would also go to hospitals. They would go to nursing homes,
places of business,
yes,
boarding houses.
Yep. They would also go to prisons and gather names. So those are in here too. And it would list, it wouldn't list what they were charged with, but it will also give their name. And whether they were, if they were a boarder, it would say where they originally were from. I found my grandfather, he was in Massachusetts for a while, and I was like, what's he doing there? And it said he had went there for a job. I didn't know that. All right, so we are going to explore a little more about this 1940 census. All right. So to begin with, it will say the location. All right. So it lists street, road, etc. The house number in the household, number of household, order of visitation. So if this was the first house that they'd been to, it would be number 1.
Right.
Whether it was owned or rented, the value of the home, if owned, or monthly rental if rented. Household, live on a farm, yes or no. Not so many of those nowadays. And this, it says name of each person whose usual place of residence as of April 1st, 1940 was in this household. And it had to be 6 months, I think, before they would get included in that state's census records. And it also told them to be sure to write down temporarily if they lived there, but they were absent at the moment. To write if they were an infant. If the child has not been named yet, or X after a name, person furnishing the information. And the next one is the relationship to the person of the head of the household, as the wife, the daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, grandson, that type of thing. And then we go into whether they were male or female, color of race, age at their last birthday, marital status. And here it depended on how they wrote, if they made a curly Q. So a W may actually look like an M.
Yes.
So you just have to pay attention to those things too. And, the census record may say one thing, and then whoever interpreted it, it may say something totally different. Also on here, it goes into whether they attended school during that time, and what the highest grade of school was completed. And then, Peggy, you want to take it from there?
Oh, it talks about where they were born. Each person, it will ask about each person that's on the census list. So, and then their citizenship, if they are a citizen of the United States, or were they born in a different country? And if so, did they, obtain citizenship? The next thing I believe is their residence.
Oh, sorry.
Where did this person live as of April the 1st, 1935? So that's 5 years before the census was taken, to see who was moving around, I guess. So, there's just lots of information that you can gather for your research on the census records. So just the main thing is, a lot of them are very hard to read if you look at the originals. So you have to, as Billy said, pay close attention to those. Some wrote with such a fancy penmanship, it's really hard to read. And then others were scribbles, and they're really hard to read too. So pay attention, double check your information to make sure that you've got it down as correct as it can be.
Also, we're showing you charts and forms just because sometimes it's a lot easier if you have the form printed out in front of you. So when you're going through and looking at the census records and it's teeny tiny print and you're saying, what does that say? That way you don't have to keep going back and forth.
Right.
You'll have it with you. That is a lot of forms to print out, but once you print it out, you've got it. And anybody that is doing family tree search, anything that can make it easier as you go,
Yes,
it's worth it.
it really is.
It's worth it. Also, these are on ancestry.com. You can download them and print them. They're not going to charge you for that. And all of them are in black and white, so none of them are in color. But I love looking through the census records and seeing that, my grandmother was 2 years old. And, thinking of my grandmother as a 2-year-old, I just didn't think about it.
So,
but we hope this will help you in your search.
yeah.
And, on down through here, you can also do a veterans schedule for the 1890s and a slave schedule for 1850 and 1860. And then as you go on down, if you're looking for the UK forms, they're here as well. And census records were taken every 10 years as they are now. And in the UK, theirs are every 10 years, except theirs must be on the odd year. And then you can look at the Canadian census forms. So there's lots of information just on this one website that you can go to. And like we said before, with your library card, it is free.
It is.
If you do not live in Madison County and you wish to get a card, you can. I have noticed lots of libraries here lately are paying for this service for their patrons. So check out your local library, because we're not here just for us. Libraries are here for everybody. Peggy, do you have anything to add?
We just thank you for coming back and joining us, and please continue to do so. We still are doing our Last in Legacy series, and we've got a few more shows to go. So please come back and join us, and hopefully we can show you something that will make your search easier.
Thank you.
Take care.